We've made this video for all of the bond traders on this planet, specifically those who follow government bonds around the world. And one of the first things for you to observe here is that we are currently on TradingView.com. So this is the homepage. And as you scroll down the homepage, you'll see all of the data, news, and information available to you, from stocks to ETFs and cryptos and much more. But what's rather helpful here as you scroll down is not only can you see all of this information, you actually eventually end up on some bonds data here at the bottom. In addition, what's particularly important, if you'd prefer not to scroll down that quickly, is that you can click this button here to go to the right, click it again, go to the right. So you've got all of these major 10-year yields before you. And if you click this button, you'll see all the bonds. You'll go to the bonds page on TradingView. Now, a few more things to pay close attention to is that this markets button at the top has a bonds button here, which can be clicked, or you've got some fast and easy accessible segmentations here to look at major government bonds around the world based on their specific region, or some quick clicks right here about various bonds and their yield. Now, what we're going to do is click this bonds button here. So watch what happens when we click this. And now we are on the bond market page, and we can click through each yield as needed. So now we are looking at the Germany 10-year yield. And just as we were showing you on the homepage a second ago, you can scroll down, but now you are seeing bond-specific information and data, including this yields heat map, and what's rather important is this news flow button. So if you are interested in following government bonds around the world and the breaking news happening with them, whether you're in Africa or Europe or somewhere else, you can follow the news flow here right before your eyes and have everything you need to understand what's moving. Also, pay close attention to these time interval buttons so you can click through some of the major bonds in a matter of seconds just by using these time frames. And you've also got the capability to embed these as widgets, view them as an area chart or candlestick chart, and even one click away launch the full chart. We have Canada here, so if we click this, we'll go to TradingView charts. But before we get there, there are a few more things we want to show you, because at the top here is a news button, and if you hover your mouse over markets, you will also see another bonds button. But remember, this is specific to news. So you guessed it, bonds. Now we have our bonds news flow right before our eyes, and we can even sort the news as needed, whether we want this list of news articles specifically about bonds, or if we'd rather see it in this view. So the choice is yours. And now let's talk about charting government bonds, because probably a lot of you are here to understand how you can chart bonds or what they exactly mean. So why don't we go ahead and go to major 10Y. And for the sake of this video, what's important to know is how to read these prices. Major 10Y. Well, the 10 refers to the maturity, so it's a 10-year bond. This Y is years, so major 10-year bonds. In addition, what you're often going to notice is that there's a coupon and a yield percentage. This is essentially how much you are going to get paid just for holding the bond, and it's expressed as a percent because it's a percent of what the total price is of that bond. So DE10Y, Germany 10-year government bonds yield. Currently, you can see that data right here, from the yield to the maturity date, time to maturity, price, percentage change, and change. Now, getting to the chart is a next step here. So we're out in major 10-year bonds. We, of course, can click through all of these, so we can see Americas or Europe or Asia. It's all one click away here. But what we do want to do is go to an exact bonds page, because that's really going to show you some potential here. So now we are on the U.S. government bonds 10-year yield. And what you'll notice is you have this drop down here, which makes it rather easy to see the maturities for all of the U.S. bonds. You can see we have U.S. 10-year selected. We have the maturity date, February 15th, 2034. This is a long holding. If you're buying this for the long haul, it's a 10-year commitment. Of course, you don't necessarily have to hold it for those 10 years, but that is sort of the maturity of the bond. It is a 10-year bond, whereas up here, US 01MY is a 1-month bond. Maturity date is March 19th, 2024. So it's 1 month from the day that we are recording this video. If you'd like to switch between the different maturities of these bonds, well, all you have to do is click. So we can go to 30-year US bond yield, and it's right before our eyes. We can see the yield and we can see the price. So remember, the yield is the percentage that you are getting back relative to the price of the bond. So if you're willing to hold it for 30 years, this is a percentage that you can lock in. Now, there are a few more key things here, though, to remember, because if, for example, the price of the bond goes down, you will sort of see that loss in principal because of the trade-off. Maybe you could have, that means the yield will go up. It's an inverse relationship between price and yield. You probably already know that if you're familiar with yields or dividends, because after all, you are lending a government your money and they are paying back a percentage based off the projects they have to finance, the debt, or anything else related to that. Now you're going to see here it says yield or price, which is a rather nice feature to have for all of you who want to do a little bit deeper of analysis rather than just looking at yield. You can quickly switch between the two when the chart is before you. And for all the new bond investors out there, that'll also probably open your eyes up to an educational moment, which is the simple fact that the yield is one aspect of a bond. It's the percentage of the payment you're getting for holding it, but the price is what the bond actually costs right now. So you can see it's a little bit of a downfall. And for those of you who are stock market investors and you're familiar with dividends, it's a similar thought process to consider as you look at these. It's the government's dividend. This is the 30-year yield. You buy it, what are they paying back essentially as a dividend? Before we head to the charts, see on Super Charts, or as we mentioned, you can click this Launch Full Chart View. We do want to remind you of some cool features that we just can't miss. One of those is the yield curve chart. So if you have if you find yourself on the yield page, the symbol page like this, you'll see there's a yield curve chart, and you can see different yield curves over different points in time. The blue line is the current yield curve. The orange line is 1 month, so this shows you how the yield curve has changed over the last month, and the teal line is 1 year, and you can unselect these as needed. So if you just want to see the current yield curve, you have current. If you want to compare the current to 1 year ago, you can do exactly what we just did by unchecking or checking these boxes. Now, if you're still not sure what these mean, hover your mouse over the yield curve and you can see this information. For example, the teal line is 1 year ago. So you can see as we move our mouse over these yields, it says US 10Y, meaning US 10-year bond yield. US 20Y, US 20-year bond yield, US 30Y, US 30-year bond yield. So you can see here you have this information before you, and that's what each dot here represents. It's another bond on the yield curve chart, so you can see the different maturities on one easy-to-see visualization. Now it's really time for us to head over to the super charts, because at the end of the day, that is probably what bond investors will be doing here or be wanting to look at. Now here's our US 30-year Y. If you click over from a symbol page, it will automatically populate the chart for you. You can do your drawings just as needed, the same way you might analyze stocks or crypto or Forex. You can do with bond charts as well. So for all of you bond investors who are familiar with TradingView, all of the drawing and analytical capabilities are very similar, and the chart is here before your eyes. A few things we want to show you is just how to compare different bond yields. So this is blue. Now, if we wanted to, for example, add Japan, well, we type in JP. You can see we have bonds selected. We only want to see bonds. Remember, it's up to you how you want to sort. For this video, we are only looking at bonds. If we'd like to really make sure we only see specific countries, you can actually select the country that you want to see so that any search you do is only going to be related to that country. So if we delete, let's actually, let's type in JP. We don't want to totally remove the search. We have JP. So anything we type in from here will only show the Japan options that are available to us. And in this video, we are going to type in JP for Japan. Remember, 30 for 30-year. And if you include the Y, then you have this yield button. It stands for yield. If you don't include the Y, then you have the Japan 30-year. So let's go ahead and include the Y for yield, Japan 30-year government bonds yield, and click. Now we have that open, and you can see here we'll change the color to red, as that's sort of more of a familiar country color. So we've got the blue and the red. Now you can say to yourself, here are two bond yields for two major governments. The US is yielding 4.4%. Japan is yielding 1.7%. And now you can start your research process. Which one makes more sense to you? Which one do you want to buy? Which one do you want to research? That is how you can start some of your bond analysis. And you can do this on different time frames as well, just by changing the time interval. So we're on a daily chart. Let's click 1 year. Now we've got the two of them right before our eyes, just like that. One more quick tip for all of you bond investors is that, as we mentioned, use this bonds button to really stay specific to the bonds you want to chart. And you can find some interesting data points if you are a bond investor. You can see here there's Canada, Australia, we see Japan and India, China, and so much more. You can see Spain here. So really the whole world is open to you if you wish to research all of these global bonds, their prices, and their yield. Now, another quick helpful reminder is you can add these bonds to your watch list if you so please, just by opening up the watch list menu and adding them as needed. You can click this plus to add a specific symbol or use a hotkey. In addition, you have even more bond data if you open your watch list. After all, this is called the watch list details and news. So you click this. Now you have some more details here. US 30-year yield. You've got this right before your eyes. And you even have some breaking news from 3 days ago. And you have a yield curve as well. And you have key terms. So you can get the coupon, maturity date, time to maturity, and the yield. Click this drop down to see the price. For other bonds, there might be more data. You have some performance capabilities here to understand how it's performing over different time frames. And you have your technicals button here. So meaning of all the technical oscillators included, what is the current outlook? Is it trending up or is it trending down? You can see here that you can get that quick visual, and you can click more technicals, and now you have this page open before you just like this, where you can dive into all of those technicals for that specific bond yield. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have shown you just about everything for bond investors. This video was essentially a full walkthrough about how to research government bonds on TradingView, starting from the homepage on TradingView.com, going through the news flow and different bond buttons you have access to and bond pages, walking you through the symbol page, and eventually landing here right on the chart where you can compare different bonds using the compare button, chart them, change their chart type as needed. We went from candles to line charts, change the color of the lines, and see additional information from the details menu here just by expanding the menu a little bit more. So as a bond investor on TradingView, you really have it all. And if you have any questions or comments, please write them below, and we look forward to hearing your feedback.